Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another TechnoLive. I hope you are well. Now, it's I always talk about the weather because, I'm getting old. That's what old people do. It's nice and sunny down in... nice and swanny? Nice and sunny
nice and
down in
swanny.
Swansea. But up by you, Dan, you say it's snowing.
It is actually, well, it's actually stopped now, but it was coming down pretty heavily a couple of minutes ago. So it's been on and off all day up in the north near Bangor.
Yeah.
Although Bangor doesn't tend to get snow, weirdly. It's kind of like Bethesda gets lots of snow, and then beyond Bethesda, it just kind of stops.
Yeah,
It's very
I know,
odd.
it's a weird old February so far.
It is. It is.
But anyway, enough of that. We're on a bit of a tight time schedule today, and I'll explain why in a bit. But first things first, remember that you can always follow along using our resources website, which is bit.ly/technoclubs. And on that website, you can follow all of our live streams. And, importantly, sign up for next term's code clubs. Yeah. So the Monday club's finished. Your club finishes tomorrow, Dan.
It does.
And then we're taking a 1 week break for half term. And the week after, we are back with the clubs again. I'm doing a little bit of MakeCode Arcade, where we'll be making RPGs. And what are you doing, Dan?
We are going to be looking at some important computational thinking techniques, which is quite a big word, but it's very, very important with programming, computer programming, and we'll be doing that in Scratch.
Yeah, so a little bit of Scratch, a little bit of, interest in computer science. So
Absolutely.
if you want to sign up for either of those, or the Friday Code Club, which is doing things a little differently this term. They're just going to do fun little fun little projects. They're not gonna do anything with a theme. But if you do want to look at any of those, go to bit.ly/technoclubs. You'll find the website. It's had a little bit of a redesign, but all you need is there, where you have the sign-up links. Whilst we're in the kind of admin section, I'll also mention there is a competition now on the go, and that is the Game of Codes competition, and that's at bit.ly/gameofcodes2021. You can also find that on the Technocamps website, technocamps.com, and I hear it's going to be quite interesting, that one. It's ongoing, and I believe the finale, or the final... Final? The end.
The end.
The end is going to be in March. So look forward to that one. A good opportunity to show off your coding skills. Oh, lovely cup of tea. Anyway. So, what are we doing today? Well, I thought we'd take a little bit of look at random generation, but in a sort of interesting way. So if I pop my screen back over to the feed... Oh yeah, we will be using MakeCode Arcade today. So if you want to get that ready and open, the link is in chat. arcade.makecode.com. Before we get on to that, let me introduce you to all the music. These are a pair of a musician and a programmer, and they did something amazing. They made a program that generates every single possible song. Every song that has been made, every song that will be made, and every song that will never be made. And it's amazing how they did this, and a lot of it's very technical, and I don't even understand it myself. But yeah, we created an application that brute forces all mathematically possible melodies. And you can find all sorts of information about that. But basically, the thing is they've made a crazy ton of music. In fact, if I go on to their... Oh, I can't find it anymore. If you look on, you can actually download some of the melodies, and there's over 600 gigabytes of them. I mean,
That's a lot of melodies.
That's a lot of music. And the question is it any good? I mean, it'll have everything in there from Beethoven to, you know, I'm stuck. I can't think of any modern music. What do people listen to nowadays?
I mean, that's not a question that you should be asking me either, I don't think.
Is Beyonce still popular?
I think so.
So it'll have everything from Beethoven to Beyonce. There you are, that sounds good. But also everything that Beyonce will make in the future. But it'll also have loads of random rubbish. And as an example of random rubbish, here we've got another website that talks about computer-generated music. And I'm going to play a sample. This might be a bit loud. Let me turn that down. Of some randomly generated music. See if you like it. I don't know about you, but that sounds absolutely horrible to me.
My stream is catching up here, so I'm.
Oh,
just
don't even bother, Dan. You don't want to listen to that. But the reason I'm talking about random generation is, let's go to another example of random generation. The game No Man's Sky, which was really hyped. People really want to play this game, but when it came out, it was universally hated. Sadly, yeah. And in the game, you're meant to fly around an infinitely generated universe. And you're meant to find all sorts of, creatures and plants and planets. But in reality, people found that random generation just ended up with lots of boring grey landscapes with boring grey creatures that kind of looked a bit too similar to another planet in another solar system. So it didn't quite work out. And why I'm talking about all this today is we're going to try and make something that is kind of randomly generated, in that we're going to make a game, but we're not going to we're not going to plan what we make. We're going to make something that's smashed together completely randomly and see how good it turns out. So we're over on to MakeCode Arcade. Let's create a new project, and I'm going to call this oh dear, well, it's called Untitled because I accidentally pressed enter on my keyboard too early. So it has no name, which is probably fitting. And what we're going to do is I'm going to ask Dan to start the timer in a bit, because every 10 minutes we're going to spin a wheel and we're going to add a new element to our game based on what the wheel result is. So we're going to end up with something truly random. And the first thing I thought we'd start with is a player character. So I've got a little bit of a Wheel of Fortune here, and it's got a load of random stuff in there, and I'm going to spin it. And we'll see what kind of character we get to be our main character. So, fingers crossed. Let's give it a go. Spinning, spinning, spinning. Our main character is going to be a firefighter. Okay.
Excellent. Right. Ready for the timer?
Yeah, so, Dan, if you start the timer for the next wheel that we spin, I will start creating our firefighter character.
Excellent.
So let's go sprites. Let's set my sprite to sprite of kind player.
I'm disappointed we didn't get fridge.
If you could play, I know, but we'll be using that wheel again to do the enemies. So,
Aye,
so we're going to
that might be
set
better.
we're going to rename the MySprite variable to something a little bit more sensible. So this is going to be my. We can't call it player because that's a reserved word. It's used by the MakeCode arcade already. So let's call it character. And we're going to keep it of kind player. But if I click in this grey square, it brings up the sprite editor. Oh, they've updated MakeCode. Oh, that's fantastic.
A few changes myself, yeah.
Yeah, you can rotate stuff around and give it names and all sorts. Oh, I'm so happy. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I'm distracted. Basically, the rules of this is if I get a random one and and there's not something in the gallery that can already represent that, or I can edit, then I have to make it from scratch. So it's a bit of a challenge on my part. So fingers crossed, there's a firefighter somewhere in the gallery, but I doubt there is.
Let's have a scroll. It's not looking promising.
No. I am up against the clock, so what I might do is I might take this hero character, because it's kind of got a red hat already.
It does.
I might take that and edit it a bit.
I was going to suggest that might be the best course of action because we are down to 7.5 minutes.
Oh gosh, we're going fast today. Okay, so I'm going to extend his hat. I can't remember. Do UK firefighters have yellow hats or red hats? It's yellow.
I think they're yellow. Yeah.
It's only red in America or Canada or somewhere like that. I'm starting to feel the pressure now. I'm going to make his hat a little bit taller. And give it another border. There's not another yellow colour, which means I can't do any shading on it, which is really annoying. But they wear yellow and black, don't they? So if I make the shirt yellow and just give it a couple of black highlights, so maybe straps for the rucksack.
Yeah, that would be sensible.
Yeah, that's going to have to do because we are up against the time. If you're playing along, feel free to skip things. Oh no, hang on, I can't leave it as that is because he's missing the top of his head. So I'm gonna select the whole thing and I'm gonna move it down one. Oh, but then he loses his legs. Oh no, I'm gonna have to cut the top of the hat off. So it looks more like he's wearing a banana. But it'll have to do.
It's the closest thing we can get in the time that we have.
Yeah, and I've only got a sort of 8 pixels around the mouth area to work with. I don't think that's enough to do a gas mask.
That might be a bit.
If I draw a circle around there, I don't know, you could imagine that's a gas mask. Pixel art is very difficult when you're working on a very low resolution. And it's low resolution because you've only got 16 pixels up and down and 16 pixels left and right. So 16 by 16, it's not much. Anyway, we've got a close approximation of a firefighter. Now that gives us a great opportunity to talk about the next spin of the wheel, which is going to be what kind of enemy does this player have to fight against?
Oh, excellent. Well, you did that in plenty of time. We've still got 4.5 minutes, so good job.
Yeah, we'll see. I've got another thing to fit in there before. Okay, so we're going to use the same wheel, and if I can get the links, I'll pop the links to load these very wheels up on the website, the resources website afterwards. But we've had firefighter. Instead of fighting fire, what's our firefighter going to be fighting? Spin the wheel. It's a phone.
Phone. Excellent.
It's a phone.
Would you like a new time? Tell me when you like the new timer.
No, it should still be the same timer.
Oh, we're on the same timer. That's fine.
Okay. So our firefighter's fighting a phone.
Excellent.
Okay, so I'm going to go sprites again, and I'm going to set my sprite to sprite of kind player. But first things first, I never like to leave my sprite as it is, because my sprite's really generic. It could be anything. So let's rename that variable, and rename this one enemy.
Sounds good.
Phone.
Yes.
Enemy phone.
There you go.
And instead of going to have sprite of kind player, I'm going to have sprite of kind enemy. So I'm using this drop down arrow to change it to enemy. And then I'm going to use this grey blob yet again to draw another sprite. Let's do a quick check of the gallery to see if we get a phone in here.
I'm not optimistic.
No. We got a computer.
Oh, there's a computer.
But no phone.
Is there anything that can be adapted?
Don't think there is. Okay, oh crumbs, that means I have to draw it myself. Okay, so I can't think of whether to do a mobile phone or an older phone. Let's do an older phone.
I think an older phone would be easier.
Okay, so I'm gonna do the handset here. That needs to go out a bit. This is not good for me because I am definitely a pixel art perfectionist.
2 minutes to go.
Ooh, okay. I just need to stop being perfectionist about it.
Against the clock here, Jack. No pressure.
Stop panicking me. Oh, this is all wrong. This is all wrong, but it's going to have to do. Okay, and then it needs to rest on a stand.
Of some kind.
Yeah, let's just make this a square. Oh, it's slightly... Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's slightly uneven, but... There we are. We're getting a stand, and then quickly do a dial.
1 minute to go.
I can't... Oh, it's off-center. I don't like off-center stuff. And then let's just fill it. Let's make it brown. Brown.
Yeah,
Brown. Actually, silver. And or pixel there and there. Okay.
I will admit that I would be the same with the perfectionist side of things.
Yeah, we've got an enemy phone. How much on the clock?
23 seconds.
Okay, let's get the character moving around. So controller. And there's this lovely block here called Move My Sprite with Buttons. And this just adds lovely, simple controls. So character. I make sure I change it to character, otherwise it won't know what to move. And the character's going to move with buttons. And if I load the simulator, which takes ages. I keep forgetting that.
The timer is going off.
Timer's going off. Let's quick... okay, I can move the character around and the phone is there. Okay, next wheel. Oh, I'm all of a diver. We need to decide what environment our game's going to take place in. So let's spin the wheel and see what environment our game's taking place in. Spin, spin, spin. And our game is taking place in space.
Excellent.
A firefighter in space.
Fighting a phone.
Fighting a phone. Okay. Okay, space is good because space, we don't have to do much for that one. We can just kind of leave it
Absolutely.
quite plain.
Are you ready for the timer?
Sorry?
Are you ready for the timer?
Yeah. Head off on the next timer.
Timer is going.
Okay, so because it's space, I'm thinking we're going to set the background and we're going to put a tile map on top of the background. So my thinking for doing that is we get a background of space, but we can still... It depends. We might actually be better not using a tile map. Yeah, no, I'm not going to use a tile map, I've decided. We can do it nice and simply just with a space background. So let's go scene. Let's set the background image this time. And we're going to put it still inside our on start block.
Excellent.
And if I click the grey blob, we're in the background editor, which is going really slowly for some reason. This is not the time to be going slow. Oh gosh, it's very slow. This isn't my PC, is it? No? I don't know. Anyway, it's space. Space tends to be black.
It does.
Let's use the white now to add some stars. Just pixel large stars. I'm glad it's space actually, because it does. This one is nice and easy and gives us much more time to add other things. So we'll get an even more complete game than I thought we would. I can pretty much relax and go away and make a cup of tea. There you are, nice simple space background. Do I want to add a planet in? Yeah, let's add a planet in, but let's add it in as a sprite, as an actual object.
Oh yeah, good idea.
Because then we can do more with that. Okay, so I set the background to this kind of spacey design that I've made. Let's go sprites, and let's add a new sprite. Set my sprite to sprite of kind player. Again, we don't like leaving it as the generic my sprite. We like to rename it. I'm going to rename this sprite the moon.
There we are.
Because why not? It's space. We can have the moon or a moon there. I don't want it to be sprite of kind player. We don't really want the sprite to be of a kind enemy either, unless you've got a personal argument with the moon. I personally don't. Let's add a new kind, and we'll just call this one an obstacle. And let's go here, and let's go gallery. And there are these kind of planety ones down here, but they're not really moon-like. I could have a big plate. I don't think that's very moon-like either.
Let's see, what else do we have? Yeah, there's not really a great deal that we could use that would represent the moon.
No, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll make this sprite bigger, because the moon's quite big. So to make the sprite bigger, I'm going to look down in the bottom left-hand corner where it says 1616. Let's make this 32 pixels wide. So I've changed 16 to 32. Let's make this 32 pixels tall as well. And that gives us more space to work with. Get it? Space?
Oh no.
Okay, let's draw a circle.
Quick timer check. We've got just over 5 minutes. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's. Oh, I can't get it centered. I like my things being centered. It's very annoying. You know, that'll have to do. I mean, it's space, isn't it? So you won't be able to see the edges. Do you think the moon is more white or more cream?
I would say that it's more white than it is cream.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, let's go white. Yeah, let's use white, but then use cream for all the craters.
Oh, there you go. That's a good idea, because that'll make them stand out a bit.
Yeah. Oh, stop being perfectionist, Jack. It's too hard. Yeah, there we are. That's a nice, all right looking moon. Do I want to fill the craters?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah.
I'm gonna fill the craters.
Okay, you've got 3.5 minutes to go.
Okay. So one important thing I'll need to do here is I'll need to move the sprites around a bit, because at the moment they all start at position 0, 0, which means they're on top of each other, which means that the fireman's instantly touching the enemy, which is not good.
No.
So I need to move these around. I might keep the moon where it is, and I might move the phone over to the right and the fireman over to the left. So to do that, the easiest way is to go sprites, set my sprite position to, and of course we're going to change my sprite to be character. And if the moon is at 0, 0, and we want the main character left of the moon, well, left is a minus x direction. So we need to make x smaller. Hang on. Am I telling porkies, is the moon actually at 0, 0? Before we mess around, let's check where the moon is. Let's go sprites. And if you scroll down, you can find this set my sprite auto destroy off. I'm going to use that block, and I'm going to change that to the moon. But rather than using auto destroy, I'm going to use the drop down arrow and change that to show physics. And when you say show physics on, flick the big switch, it makes it easy to see all the details about a sprite. But this is for debugging your game as a developer. You know what's happening. So now I've done that, it's shown me the position of the moon, which is actually at 80, 60. So I was lying when I said the moon was at 0, 0. So if we want the sprite the same amount down, but slightly left of the moon, well, if it needs to be slightly left, then we need to make a value smaller than 80. So let's try 20 for the x, and the y, which is the 60, well, we want it to be on the same level as the moon, so let's change the y of the character to 60. And run that. So yeah, now our firefighter is to the left of the moon, which is not a sentence I thought I would ever say. Are we going to do the exact same thing for the phone? We're going to go
Which
to
is also in
sprites,
space.
set my sprite position, and change that my sprite to enemy phone. And we want it to the right of the moon, so it needs to be a value greater than 80. So let's try 100 and 10. 110. Actually, 100. Let's try 100. And we want it at the same height as the moon.
The timer is going off.
Oh, okay, the timer's going off. Okay,
Although technically you're just doing some debugging currently. So.
Okay, I'll move the phone and then we can do the next one. So at the moment the phone is too close to the moon, so let's make that larger. Let's make that 140. Okay, next wheel. So we've done character, we've done environment. This wheel is our character actions. Okay. Oh, crumbs. So these are all the actions that the character can do. And I'm going to propose that they have a primary action and a secondary action. So they have 2 in total. So we need 2 spins of the wheel.
Right.
So let's click the spin. What do we get? That's interesting. Okay, so the the character can teleport.
Okay.
A firefighter has somehow learnt the ability to teleport. And if I spin again... Ah. Okay. Okay. A firefighter can only do 2 things. Hide and teleport.
Excellent.
Okay, so this is where the thinking gets tricky. Need to think how we can work out hiding and teleporting, how we can kind of fit that into our game and what we've got going with our game. So,
right. The timer has begun.
I'm thinking... Okay, so here's my proposal. The phone, the enemy, is roaming about the map, and the firefighter has to avoid touching it.
Excellent.
So, the firefighter can do 2 things. Can teleport, which can only be used a couple of times because it's an emergency thing. Or hide. Okay. How can they hide?
Could they hide behind the moon?
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Yeah, they could hide behind space objects that the phone can't go behind.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get the phone moving, which I think is the first part.
All right.
So on start, I'm going to go to sprites again, and I'm going to set the rule that the phone bounces on the wall.
Ah, yeah.
And that gives it, the phone's off doing its own thing, and gives it a bit more randomness. So set my sprite bounce on wall, and we'll change my sprite this time to enemy phone. Okay. So the phone will bounce on wall. We should also have another thing where the phone just starts moving in a random direction. So let's go sprites. And what we're going to do now is we're going to set the velocity of the phone. So the phone is going to be given speed in a certain direction. So I'm using the block set my sprite velocity, but we need to change my sprite to enemy phone. And what direction do you want to go? Well, Vx is the horizontal speed, and Vy is the vertical speed. So if it's going 50 horizontal and 50 vertical, it's going to be going down towards the bottom right. So let's make that random. Let's randomize that a bit. Let's go to the math panel, which is my least favorite panel.
Yeah, I think it's mine too.
If it's more than 2, I don't care. I only like zeros and ones. Anyway, where it says pick random 0 to 10, this block will pick a random number between 0 and 10. So I'm going to use that. But I'm going to change it from 0. I'm going to change it actually from 0 to be minus 50 to 50. And the reason I'm using minus 50 is a minus number will make it turn left. You can see it on the simulator having a go around. We need to randomize how much up and down it goes as well. So let's get another pick random block. I'm going to pick a random number again, minus 50, which is up, to 50, which is down. Let's see if that works. Yeah, so as soon as we started, it set off in a random direction. And it keeps going and going and going forever. And if I restart the game, it's on another random path.
That's excellent.
Marvellous.
Just a heads up, we've got 5.5 minutes.
5.5 minutes. Okay, let's do hiding first. Let's hide behind the moon, but the moon needs to protect us. So, let's have it so that when the enemy phone hits the moon, something happens to the enemy phone. So let's go sprites. And we're going to bring in a new event here. An event is the one with the... It's not got a dimple in it, so it stands on its own. It can't plug into anything. And this event is the on sprite of kind player overlaps other sprite of kind player. It's kind of halfway through the sprites menu. I'm going to grab this. And of course it stands alone. It can't go in on start. And we need to change a couple of things about this. First of all, we want the phone overlapping the moon. So we'll have change player to be enemy. Overlaps other sprite of kind. Well, we called the moon an obstacle. So of sprite obstacle. So on sprite of kind enemy overlaps other sprite of kind obstacle. I'm just thinking about what's best to do here. How's the timer looking?
Let's have a quick look. We have got 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Ooh, crumbs. Okay. I'm just thinking, what could we do to the enemy phone? We could destroy it. Yeah, we could destroy it and spawn a new one, couldn't we? And that way, you're kind of like under bombardment. Yeah, let's do that. Let's Okay, so when okay, I'm all of a diver. Let's find the destroy sprite block, which is in the sprites panel. And we're not going to destroy my sprite. We're going to destroy whichever sprite does the overlapping. So the way to do that, I'm going to grab this little oval sprite from the event and pop it in the destroy. And when we destroy the phone, we should probably create a new one. So I'm going to go back into my on start, and where it says set enemy phone to sprite of kind enemy, I'm going to right click and duplicate that. So I can easily create another phone and I don't have to go ahead and draw it all over again. We should also set the position of that. So I'm going to go back into on start. And we'll set the enemy phone position. I'm going to duplicate that again. I'm also going to duplicate the block where we randomize its speed. Okay. Let's see that. Okay, so the phone can't go inside the moon. But it did move off the screen. It didn't bounce on the wall. So we'll need to get the bounce on wall thing again. So that's from on start. I'm going to have to duplicate that again and bring it down here. So the phone's going wild. Hopefully hits the moon. Hits the moon, resets. And we can make that more difficult by making that faster. How are we doing for time?
We've got a minute left.
Ooh, let's quickly get the player teleporting. So controller on A button pressed. So when you press the A button, we'll have the we'll set the position. So sprites, set my sprite position. Change my sprite to the character, and we'll set the character's position to something random, and it'll be a kind of a cheating it's a kind of a cheaty thing to do. You could just teleport everywhere, but if we had more time we could add a teleport limit on that, or maybe you can only teleport if you've got the right items. That's something we could add. But let's go math. Let's go pick random.
5 seconds.
5 seconds. Oh, okay. The width of the screen is 160, so it needs to be from 0 to 160. Let's go math. Pick random. And the height of the screen is 120, so 0 to 120. Has it gone off?
It has.
Okay, next wheel. So we've done character actions. Now we're on to genre, which is where it gets really messy. So we might have to suddenly add a thing into our game. Okay, so let's see what we get for genre. Spinning the wheel. Oh, okay. This is actually fantastic because it really works with our space theme. Because the genre is a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up.
Oh, excellent. Well, that does work quite nicely.
Exactly. For anyone who's curious, shoot-'em-up, in games industry, we usually call that a shmup. So that's why it's got an awkward name. Okay, so the basic things of a shoot 'em up is you're flying through some kind of underwater or space, so you're flying somewhere and things are flying at you from the side of the screen, and you have to shoot them down or do something. Unfortunately, we can't shoot them down, even though it's a shoot them up, because our character action wheel said we could only teleport or hide.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have to live by that.
We are.
I'm going to have to think around that creatively. So here's my thinking what we do. What we do is we don't set the velocity of the phone to something random. We set it so it's always travelling left. And that way it's kind of acting like an oncoming ship.
Yes.
My other thinking is, because it needs to be a shoot 'em up, I reckon if you get into the moon if you're touching the moon shoots. Rather than the character shoots.
Okay.
So this is a weird to work around. It's a weird workaround, but you're kind of like dashing to hide in a base. And the base shoots for you.
But this is the joy of having stuff generated through randomness.
Exactly, you have to really be creative. So let's get the phone only traveling left. So at the moment, when I've got my on start and I set the enemy phone to travel a random direction between -50 and 50, well, 50 means it goes right. So if you don't want it to go right at all, we only want it to go left. We can change that number to be lower than 50, so maybe 0, which means it won't move at all. Or let's do -10. So between -10, between -50, -70 and -10. So it can be quite fast, but it's always going left. And it's still bouncing up and down. Yeah. So we're now only going to move the phone left. We should also have it that if you're in the moon shoots. So let's go sprites. Let's scroll down to find the overlap block again. So on sprite of kind player overlaps other sprite of kind player. Just as we did before, but we're going to change this so it's on sprite of kind player overlaps other sprite of kind obstacle. Because at the moment the moon is our only obstacle. So when that happens, what should happen? Let's go sprites. And if we scroll down in sprites, there is this projectiles section. And we've got options so we could set the projectile to come from the side, or it could come from a sprite. Let's set the projectile. So we'll use the second one. Set projectile from my sprite. Well, we don't want it to come from my sprite. We want it to come from the moon. But because this event, it could be for any kind of obstacle, we're going to instead use this other sprite that comes from the event. We're going to take that and pop it in. Create projectile from other sprite. And here we can set the velocity of the projectile. Now, if the moon is shooting, the moon is going to be shooting right. So we want, let's say 50 for the X velocity. And because 50 is positive, the bullet will be going right. But we don't want it to go up and down at all. So we're going to say 0 vertical velocity. So it won't go up nor down. And finally, we need to give a design of the projectile. We can use here, believe it or not, another wheel to decide what our projectile's going to be. So I'm back on the player character wheel. Let's give it a spin and see what the projectile's going to be. The moon is going to be firing trucks.
Excellent.
I'm quite sad it didn't land on broccoli, actually, but trucks will do. Let's check the gallery, see if I can cheat and use one that's preloaded.
We have got just under 4.5 minutes.
4.5 minutes. I'm seeing cars. I am not seeing a truck.
The car may have to do.
I don't know whether that's cheating or not. Let's try it. Let's go. Nice bright red car. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend the sprite so it's got more space, and then I'm going to redraw the back of it to make it a truck.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to change where it says 1616. I'm going to change that to 3216. which makes the sprite wider. And using the move tool, I can move this to the right. And if we keep that wheel there, actually we're going to have to draw over it a little bit. This is going to be some of my worst drawing, but we don't exactly have oodles of time.
No, you have just over 3 minutes.
Oh gosh, okay. Okay, it's kind of like a truck. Actually, I need to make it a bit more 3D because the car itself is 3D. Yeah, that's looking better. Let's oh, I'm gonna quickly put some text on it just to say yum. It's a food truck because why not?
Nice.
Yeah, the truck says yum on it. Oh, I forgot wheels. Okay, wheels are important.
Okay, you have got that's 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
Okay. So the moon, when the player enters the moon fires trucks. Fires far too many trucks, but that's something we can fix later. Depends how much time we've got. There's a couple of things I do want to fix though. I want the oh no, don't have time for that. Stop being perfectionist. So the moon fires trucks. Let's have the moon doing the same thing as the phone. The moon is going to start moving left and sort of spawn randomly. So in the on start one, I'm going to, where it says set enemy phone, I'm going to duplicate, sorry, set enemy phone velocity to random. I'm going to duplicate that, but I'm going to change it to the moon. And I'm going to have it so that
1 minute to go.
Okay. Yeah, the moon's going to bounce on the wall as well. Let's try that. So the moon's going mad. It's doing its own thing. Yeah, it can hide behind the moon. And if you manage to get in the moon, it will attack you. Not the moon, sorry. Ah, crumbs, we haven't done the phone attacking you.
20 seconds.
No, that's going to have to wait until the next section. Oh, it's a really terrible game, Dan. But, you know, that's the point. Sometimes making stuff randomly doesn't quite work out that well.
Right, here's the timer ending.
Okay, timer ends. We're on to the next one. So we've done genre. We're on to the last wheel now. We've only 5 minutes left in the session. We need to work out what the story of this nonsense is. So let's spin the wheel. Try and work out what type of story we're going to have. Oh no. Historical fiction.
Oh dear.
Okay. In what world?
On the right side, it's fiction.
True, it's fiction. In what world is it historical that we have a fireman flying through space, attacking a phone, getting attacked by a phone, and having to hide behind the moon?
This is a tricky one.
Yeah, I genuinely don't think it's possible.
No.
Whilst I'm thinking about it, I'm going to tidy up a couple of things. One of the things I'm going to tidy up is I'm going to have it so that the player actually dies when they hit the phone. See if you can brainstorm anything, because I can't.
Well, okay, so we've got the old-timey phone.
Mm.
So how about historically, scientists wanted to see how the phone would adapt to deep space.
Yeah,
And so
maybe they
they
were testing one of the phones used in the Apollo missions.
Absolutely. So they launched a phone into deep space, but it went off track, and so they sent and went a bit rogue.
Mm.
So they had to send a fireman to try and retrieve it. However, unfortunately, the phone became
Maybe it's traveling so fast that as soon as it hits the fireman, fast things moving in space are quite dangerous.
Well, absolutely. The only thing is that I'm not sure how we can explain the trucks.
Maybe there's a moon base, and they don't have any weapons, but they do have rockets and they do have trucks.
Well, there you go.
So hang on, how's that historical?
It's historical fiction, so it's
Okay, in 1793, Leonardo da Vinci established a base on the moon.
excellent.
And yes, the telephone was going haywire. So I don't think that's worked, Dan.
I don't think it worked.
Anyway, let me.
We've been defeated by that part.
Yeah, I think we are pretty defeated. There's no way you can make historical fiction like that.
No.
Maybe unless you made it about one of the space missions in the 70s.
That's the only way.
Yeah. Anyway.
We haven't got time to think it up.
Oh, hang on. Neil Armstrong. Armstrong, like a firefighter.
Oh.
Because a firefighter has strong arms to fight the fire with.
Yeah.
So Neil Armstrong's on the moon. It's historical fiction, so we'll say that they made the lunar rover earlier. That's our truck. It's a lunar rover now.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
During the flight, some communications equipment, the phone, came off. And it threatens to destroy the lunar module on the moon.
There we go.
So Neil Armstrong, the firefighter, has to fire lunar rovers at the phone. That's the closest I can get.
That's the best we can do, I think.
Anyway, with 2 minutes to go, let's have it so that on sprite of kind player overlaps other sprite of kind enemy. We can go game over, lose. Okay.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'd say, we need the projectile to hit the phone as well. So where we've got this one which says on sprite of kind enemy overlaps other sprite of kind obstacle, let's just duplicate the whole thing. I'm running out of screen space here. And we'll have it, instead of the enemy overlaps the obstacle, we'll have it so the enemy overlaps a projectile. It'll have the same effect as resetting the phone. And how do we slow the trucks down? We should have it so that when you use the moon to fire a truck, it kind of respawns the moon. So
okay.
You could have it so it creates a projectile from the moon. Then if we go sprites destroy, We'll grab the other sprite from this event because the other sprite's the obstacle. And then we'll do exactly the same as we've done here, where we've reset the phone, except we'll reset the entire moon. So I'm going to duplicate each of these and change them to be the moon instead. So set the moon. Oh no, that needs to be duplicated from the on start. Where's the moon? Oh, there's so much code. I've lost everything. Where's it going? There we are. We'll set the moon, and then we set the position of the moon. So change that to the moon. And we'll change the velocity of the moon. The moon. And we'll set the moon to bounce on the wall, because that's what moons do.
I set a timer when you started the historical fiction, or where we attempted to set some historical fiction, and I'm pleased to say you still have 3 minutes left.
Oh, fantastic.
Of that timer.
Yeah, so it's not a good game, but we do have a kind of a game. Let me give everyone a tour of it. So you're flying through space alongside a phone and the moon. You are Neil Armstrong. You need to head to the lunar module on the moon to fire a lunar rover at the rogue communications device.
And that is that.
And that's that. And you lose the game when you hit the phone, and you basically have to survive as long as possible. Game over.
And this is what we have produced.
Okay, so I hope everyone enjoyed. It was a bit of silly fun, but the point of this is, if we've got these tools now and these people who are making all these randomly generated things, and particularly things like AI, if AI is creating stuff, is it necessarily good? Does it have good quality? So we can have AIs generating all of our music, all of our entertainment, but would it be good entertainment? That's the question. A little bit of philosophy at the end there.
Yes, but nonetheless, something that I think we are having to consider.
Exactly. And maybe it's a little bit of fun to play with a bizarre game where you've got things like moons, phones, firefighters, all sorts. But if every game were random and zany and weird, would that be good? Anyway, I hope that's proved interesting. I will be popping up all the resources used today on the website, and as a reminder of the website, you can always head to bit.ly/technoclubs. We do have a little bit of a schedule for this week. We've got Dan's last Game Fruit session for the Techno Clubs on Wednesday. And because it is the last session of the clubs for the term, it's the last season of the clubs, it means that next week, the week beginning the 16th of February, we have a different schedule where everything's offline. There's nothing on Monday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, except for Tuesday, where we will be doing a little bit of Minecraft Education Edition. And what we'll be doing there is all the things that we weren't able to do in the Monday Code Clubs. So if you're part of the Monday Code Club, tune into that one next week, same time, same place. And unless there's anything else that I've forgotten?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Oh. Thank you, Dan, for helping me out and
Yeah.
challenging me with some very interesting. What I've made a terrible game. Anyway, check the website. You'll be able to play that game for yourself. That's it from me, and that's your cue, Dan.
Was that my cue?
Yeah, that's your cue.
That was my cue. Right, and for me. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Ta-ra.
Bye.
Wrong one. That's the one. Bye.